All right, we'll go ahead and get started here. Looks like we got everybody. Just got a few points here to get us going. I'm sure you guys all know we're going to the Outback Bowl, and we're very excited about that. It's a good bowl. We've been there a few years now, and it should be a good deal. I know a bunch of the fans were a little disappointed that we're going back there and been there a few times, but you know what? If anyone asks, we're ecstatic to go to the Outback Bowl. Okay, it's a great bowl. And we get to play a top-tier SEC opponent again, all right? And, we're really happy about that. We're really happy about the opportunity to play another game as a team because that's really what this is all about, all right? We get to go out there and play Iowa football one more time with this team. This is the seniors' last game, okay? And I'll be damned if we don't give it our best shot, all right? There's a lot of media buzz out there saying that we could have had a better year out there. All right. Well, fuck that shit. Okay. We're out there and we're going to play our best game. All right. In Mississippi State, they're a good football team. Okay. They're going to come to play. And I promise you that. But I tell you what, we're going to handle this bowl game. We're going to handle the bowl prep. We're going to practice hard. All right. And we're going to be ready to go on January 1st. I'll promise you that. All right.
Oh, that's good. Welcome to the podcast, everybody. That's not a better. That's week 10. We made it to week 10, everyone, and clearly we're glad to be here, as Coach Ferentz just mentioned. I was waiting for you to pull the one. If we could sign up, all right. If we could sign up for an SEC opponent on January fucking 1st, okay, we'd take that at the beginning of the year, all right. All right, we'll fucking do that. All right. But
yeah. So everyone that doesn't know, that is a KF intro to a team meeting. That's pretty much the exact team meeting they're probably going to have in the next couple of days. Almost word for word. I could probably promise you that.
That's probably the team meeting opener tomorrow morning.
Yeah. I don't know when they're going to meet. Probably tomorrow. But yeah, Hawks are going to the Outback Bowl. We got a lot to talk about tonight. A lot has happened in the Hawkeye world over the past 7 days. Like a lot. We're going to start by talking about the Outback Bowl just because it's fresh. It happened not 4 hours ago that it was announced that the Hawks are going to be playing back in Tampa for the third time in 6 years. Wouldn't have been my favorite if I was still on the team. Still isn't my favorite, but it's also a bias thing because we went there twice. Nobody in the program has gone there twice right now. Just once back in. Oh, when did we play there?
Well, it was like this January 1st, 17. Yeah.
Yeah. So repeat for them, for everybody that's been on the team since then. I tweeted it. Great place to play. Great. They run a great bowl game. We're going to talk about it and kind of break it down. But overall, one of the better bowl games out there. Can't be mad that we're playing in Tampa on January 1st. There's nothing wrong or bad about that. Would it have been cool to, go to a new place or an unfamiliar place as of recent? Yeah, probably. But you don't always get what you want. There's a lot of teams out there that aren't bowling right now, or they're not going to be. So you're thankful for what you get. Any initial thoughts from you two on that?
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. Like, Outback Bowl it is a great bowl. Like, they do a really good job of putting it on. We as players had a blast both times that we went. There's a ton to do around there. And the game itself is always it's a well-run operation. I mean, like you said, it's Tampa's a great place. It's fun. I think, just like you said, people are hoping for something new, nothing wrong with Tampa. It's just we've been there for 3 times in the past 6 years. So I was kind of hoping for a Holiday Bowl, see the Hawks play someone else, maybe play a Pac-12 team. But in the end, Tampa's a great bowl. They'll have a ton of fun. And I think it'll be a good thing for the Hawks.
I guess we're all kind of in congruence on this topic then, because I feel the same way. Maybe a hair disappointed that it's Tampa and not somewhere else, just because the Outback Bowl is starting to feel like the Iowa's coming back every other year bowl. But like you guys said, Tampa's a sweet place. I actually was never on a Tampa Bowl trip as an expecting player. You know, we went in our true freshman year, and certainly we weren't going to play. You guys brought up the picture from that bowl that just showed how not
Us
ready
and
we were to
OBJ.
play against those guys.
You talking about the picture on the stairs?
Yeah, I'm talking about the picture with OBJ in them.
Oh yeah,
Us,
yeah.
OBJ, Jarvis Landry, L. Collins,
Yeah.
you know, that picture.
I thought you were talking about another picture where we took a Christmas card picture on the spiral staircase of the hotel.
Oh yeah. That one too.
On the night of Christmas dinner.
That also made us look like a bunch of infants. But no,
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
was bad.
It, like I said, so that year obviously we weren't going to play, and then in 16 I broke my leg in the game before. So to be honest, I've never experienced Tampa, that bowl trip, from like a real player's perspective. But I know that I enjoyed myself at the casino. They've got some really good strip clubs in Tampa. Some pretty fun things to do.
Here we go.
You can go down to Ybor City and get loaded drunk. There's some cool things to do on that bowl trip if you're not going to be playing. So
a bunch of guys went on a fishing trip like all day one time 2 years ago, and ended up catching a bunch of fish and frying it up. Like there's a beach day, there's a bowling day against the other team. You know, there's a bunch of fun stuff that they put on for the guys, and they're going to have a ton of fun without doubt.
Yeah, Tampa Bay Lightning game is one of the events. Not bowl games are interesting, and maybe we'll talk about this more. Maybe we won't, wherever this goes. But bowl games are interesting because, in a way, it's a very new experience, even for guys who have been on the team for 1-2 couple years. Unless you're a junior, 4th or 5th year senior, you don't. There's not a lot of bowl experience because you get it for 6 days a year if you go. So bowl games they're just not a straight up like put you down on paper game. There's a lot of extra factors that go into it. And it's a real test of how mature your team is, your entire team, because you bring the whole team. It's not a normal travel trip where you just take the 75. It shows how well your team is, matured over the year, how fast your true freshmen and your second year freshmen have caught on, and kind of how they can follow what to do in the program, and how good your team travels and does things the right way. And I think Iowa is extremely good at that. A lot of times you'll see other teams with guys who bowl trips in a sense they're a trap for young guys. You get per diem money in excess of $600-$700 from the university. 400 of that
being per diem, and then there's the bowl gift from the university.
Right. So yeah, technically split up. You get $400 gifted. Everybody gets $400 gifted from the university, and then there's an extra $300 to $400 depending on where you go, how many days you're down there for.
It's
per
more
diem
than
money.
That, dude. There's more than that for per diem money.
No,
is it?
It depends how long you're there. Like, I mean, Jacksonville, we were down.
I thought our first year it was like $450, and then the other times it was all like $370, $380.
It, like you said, it depends how long we're there. Jacksonville, we were down there for like 9 days, and we got a shit ton. And New York,
regardless,
we were there for 3 days, we didn't get nearly as much.
Right. So regardless, you're getting upwards of $1,000 and you're 18, 19, 20, even the seniors, 22 years old, and you're put in a coastal city where it's warm and it's a different environment than Iowa City. There's a lot of different opportunities, as Drake, so graciously mentioned. A variety of strip clubs, a nice Seminole Hard Rock casino that was visited multiple times by all three guys on this podcast. Bars,
a bar scene with women that don't always wear the most clothes because you're in sunny South Florida. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
there's
it's
a
just
lot
a
of fun
different
things to get yourself into.
Yeah, it's an easy place for college kids to get in trouble. And so it's super fun. Part of why I wanted the Holiday Bowl so bad for the Hawks this year and for us the past couple years was just because it was another different scene, and I wanted as much. You don't get to travel. There is no study abroad as a college football player. You don't get a lot of time to really go and do stuff like that. So I wanted it to be as diverse as possible, and so that's why when you repeat a bowl site, it's a little bit of a bummer just because you don't get to experience a new city, even though the experience itself is unique to that year. None of our two bowl games there weren't the same exactly, but there was a lot of similarities. But yeah, it's a scene and it's a experience where it can go the wrong way pretty quickly, especially with 100 and some college age dudes who all just got given $1,000. Like there's a lot of stuff like that, but they're also incredible experiences. And we talked about some of the stuff you get to do that the bowl site sets up. Tweeted about this as well. Iowa's been there so many times that our support staff, shout out Ben Hansen and Paul Fed, they literally know these guys. They're like buddies with the Outback Bowl committee. So they know exactly, what hotels are good, what places are good, how to set this up. So they probably love it because it makes their jobs easier. They just set it up much easier. But yeah, it's our Iowa football made sure that we got the most out of the Outback Bowl experience, and it'll be exciting for those guys to get to go down there and do that.
Yeah, one thing I am interested in seeing is how KF handles the bowl trip, because in years past, we would go down there pretty early, and
yeah,
we'd have a later curfew the first couple of days. So the coaches would basically let the guys go around, see the city, get having a bunch of fun out of their system, and then have our game week where early curfew, you're in bed and you're basically practicing with a couple hours of downtime every day. Versus last year we were there 2 days before the game.
Yeah, we were there for
that's
basically
because we didn't have to climatize to Florida from an Iowa winter, because we were going to play in the same climate, so there's no reason to go out there early. I mean, they're going to have to go out down there at least a week early so that the guys aren't absolutely dying when it comes to the game.
Right.
Well, I know Kate asked us after it was when we were training for a pro day, he asked a bunch of the seniors, how we felt about the bowl prep, doing most of it in Iowa City, then going out to the destination a little later. And he really seemed to like that format. But like Drake said, I think with a warm Florida climate, they're probably going to have to go down there earlier to get acclimated to it.
Yeah, and I think Doyle will probably have a big part in that. Just Doyle understands more than anyone the physiological needs of what a team needs to successfully perform at their best. And part of that, especially right now, is in Iowa, everybody's bodies have acclimatized to 30, 40, maybe even 20-degree weather. 55 is t-shirt and shorts weather right now in Iowa. So, I remember 2 years ago when we went, we went out on the field and I thought I was going to die. Oh God. It's especially, and this is going to sound super soft of me, just week 2 in a row of me being soft on the podcast, but the specialists come out first. As anyone who attends games knows, we come out at 81 or 82 minutes, depending on what we got to do before kickoff. So we're out there almost an hour and a half pre-kick, and then you stand out there for another 3 to 4 hours. Even if you don't do shit like a snapper or a kicker, that amount of time spent in pads doing some activity at least over the course of 5 to 6 hours is insanity. Especially if you're coming from a winter climate. So there's that aspect to it that a lot of people probably don't think about. I was hot. It was real hot.
Yeah,
about
I
you
remember
guys.
that. It was
Well, Drake wasn't playing, so he was probably okay.
I mean,
Yeah,
I was in travel sweats. I didn't have any shorts or anything. So I was wearing sweatpants. I was on crutches. So I mean, I was pretty well sweating my dick off just like all you guys were.
well, that's just your dumbass's fault. No one said you couldn't wear shorts.
I don't know. I knew that I was supposed to wear the travel sweats to the stadium, so I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna do anything different here. I'm just gonna keep wearing what they told me to wear. I just following directions.
It was I wouldn't have wanted to be an actual player, like an actual position during that game, because it was.
So the funniest thing is, like, Ike tells a pretty good story about this game. During the first half, like, he could not believe how hot it was, because like we were down there for a little while, but there was a couple days where it was actually kind of chilly when we were practicing, and like then we get to the game and it was just an absolute scorcher. And
The game day was by far the hottest
day that we were down there. Like, of course, what would you fucking expect? And so Ike is just hotter than hell on the sideline, makes it to the first half. He was so tired at the end of the first half, goes into the locker room, like rolls his jersey all the way up, unbuckles his pads, and takes a Powerade bottle full of water and just squirts himself. He said he was just showering himself with ice cold water, trying to cool down. Like, that's how miserable it was for those guys.
Yeah. But as we say that, last year we played in like 22-degree weather, icy, windy conditions. You take being hot over what we got last year. I
don't think any of us signed up to play football on an ice skating rink. So
no, that was
all right. That game wouldn't have been that bad if the field was actually playable. Like, I don't think there's anyone out there complaining about a cold weather game. Like, we're from Iowa. Obviously, we fucking deal with that at the end of November all the way through, fucking March. But the fact that you couldn't cut or plant or run on that field at all was what made it so bad. I don't think it was the weather that guys were really bitching about.
Yes, but then of course we were okay with it, but as a bowl game destination, kind of what you're trying to earn for the end of the season, if you want cold or hot, you're not trying to play a bowl game in 23-degree weather either. Like, you want a nice warm destination.
I'm just saying, for the bowl game destination, you obviously want to go to a warmer weather, but just for the football game, I'd rather play in 20 degrees than 85 degrees every day of the week.
Yeah,
I agree.
I'm probably with you there too. I mean, if I could choose, I'd take 50 or 55. That would be ideal. But yeah, so we're playing Mississippi State. I don't know shit about Mississippi State.
I don't know shit about shit. All right, but
we haven't watched a lot of film on them. Okay, all right. What I do know, all right, is they play in the SEC. Okay, and those teams play hard. All right, they're gonna have guys. All right, they're like a Penn State outfit. They're gonna look real pretty. Okay, and these guys, I'm sure they can fucking play too. Okay, so we're gonna have to bust our ass this month. Okay.
Oh, boys.
This is going to be a fan favorite for all the KF stuff.
You know what?
Yeah, they're going to be good.
Yeah, they have a really good defense. I do know that they have one of the top defenses in the country. So I'm just going to say it right now for the Hawk fans out there: bet the under. All right, because it's going to hit. I don't care what it's at; it's going to hit. Bet the under.
Yeah. And maybe we'll learn a little bit more about Mississippi State for the next couple podcasts, which brings me to a point that I want to bring up for the listeners is over the past week, alongside of the outside stuff that's been going on, as far as things that we're going to talk about on the podcast today, there's been some off the field discussion as well. And the three of us have come to the conclusion that we're going to turn this podcast thing. A lot of you have asked recently about the future of the podcast. Are we going to do it in the off season? Yada, yada, yada. What's it going to look like? So right now, what we're going to try, and I think it's going to work best for both us and for you guys as the listeners, we're going to try a seasonal podcast in a sense that there's going to be about 3 seasons or 3 or 4 seasons worth of podcasts, maybe 3 seasons worth of podcasts per year, at a wide scale look. So one during the season, there's not going to be an episode limit, like, oh, they're all going to be 12 episodes, because it's going to be kind of determined upon that season. But in the short term, it's going to kind of look like one during the season, then one after, or kind of in the middle of spring, maybe before spring ball, all the way to the end of spring ball. Then we'll take a break, and then one maybe during the summer, take a break, like a short season in the summer. And there's going to be like 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 week breaks in there. This is going to allow us to not have to find dumb shit to talk about, and we're going to actually have content to talk about when we, come back from a 3-4 week break. It's going to allow us to take a month off and not have to worry about producing this just like every week. And it's also going to allow us to, on the back end, kind of come up with ideas without having to crank out an episode every week and implement them middle of a season. So, like every new season could come with a new aspect to the podcast, but it's going to increase the content quality, and it's going to give us a little bit of a break now and then. I don't know if we even really decided. We were talking about the other day. I guess it would be smart to go through the bowl game, but we also were talking about, well, if we do a couple more and then start with the bowl game recap as our first episode of season 2 sometime in January, that would work too. If you guys have thoughts on that, shoot us some thoughts on Twitter. But yeah, that's a little bit behind the scenes. What's next? What do we want to talk about? Well, I guess we can talk about the other bowl games, or the college football playoff, or do we want to talk about Noah Fant's decision to declare early and not play in the bowl game?
Yeah, I feel like we should talk about that first.
All right, cool. Noah Fant, you all know him, kind of. So Noah decided Wednesday, maybe, I think it was, that he's decided to forfeit the rest of his eligibility. He is not going to play in the bowl game against Mississippi State on January 1st, and he is going to focus on the NFL draft and preparing for that. And it's a super interesting. It's interesting because it's the first Iowa player to enter this very gray area, kind of uncharted territory, brand new of the last maybe 2 to 5 years of money and financial future life situations creeping into college football and kind of making decisions based on that. So I think that we kind of touched on this when we talked about Nick Bosa earlier in the season, and which is why I think this is going to be interesting, because Kevin was fairly aggressive towards that. And I think the quote was, it was the biggest fuck you to your teammates in the whatever. But this isn't the exact same situation. And I want to hear both of your... Okay, sorry about that. So Kevin, he's got a fucking job now. So, boss calling him 7:30 at night on a Sunday. Boss is calling him, trying to figure out why Kevin isn't producing or something like that. Anyway, we're talking about
spread.
Yeah. So we're talking about Noah, and first off, I was talking about Nick Bosa and now Noah Fant. The decision is different. One, because of when the decision was made, and two, because of the situation that the team was in. I don't want to carry this out and like compare these two, and really it's a completely different situation. And if you don't think so, you're wrong. So essentially, Nick Bosa is like Noah Fant talent wise, two of the best players in the country, especially at their selected position. Nick got hurt right in the middle of the season, like early in the season.
Yeah, it was like 4 games in or something like that.
And he just decided, fuck it. Like, we're like, you know what, I'm not going to risk it. Not only that, so he decided all the way back then. And number two, Ohio State was going to be a legitimate contender for a national championship and a Big Ten championship. And granted, we thought back then we were too, but Noah hadn't made that decision at that point. So that's why it's different. Noah made his decision. And then it's going to bring up this conversation of, well, do bowl games matter? Obviously, like I've seen some comments like obviously not to Noah on Twitter, but it's a different situation. To be honest, in a flat out bottom line number, no, the Outback Bowl doesn't matter at all to Noah Fant. Because if he gets hurt, he risks losing out on potential millions of dollars. In a professional sense, in a future of his career sense, it doesn't matter at all, the Outback Bowl game. Does it matter to him? How much does it actually matter to him as far as like being there for his teammates, being there for it? Probably matters a lot. It's just in this scenario, in my opinion, millions of dollars matter more. And it's just like, I see it. I respect it. Never been in that situation. Never will. But I can't judge or disrespect that decision at all because it's clearly a life-changing one. You look just a couple years ago at the same position in the same conference, Jake Butt, Michigan. How much have you heard of him recently?
How much
and he decided to play in the bowl game.
He's got a second ACL tear, and who knows how much correlation that has to the first one. But I mean, he's still paying for that.
Right. So I want to hear, what do you guys think about this? I've heard what you guys think on Twitter a little bit. You guys can chime in if you want. I'm not going to get into any big, long conversations or disputes, but Kevin and Drake, what do you guys think? And yeah,
I guess.
Yeah,
you go ahead.
You want to take it first, Drake? Go ahead. How are you, buddy?
Oh, you guys are so sweet.
I'll take it. That's cool. I guess my stance on it is that Noah is making the best decision for himself, and that the guys who, we've been playing with him for years and they're all his friends, they just have to realize that this isn't a fuck you to them, and this isn't him bashing the program. I genuinely think that he has just looked at it in the way that this is the best decision for him to not play another snap and risk injury without signing that paper. You know what I mean? Like, he has that money in front of him. We don't know what it feels like, and so we can't really judge that decision. And he's definitely been advised on what he should do, and he's making the most informed decision that he can. And, I saw somebody compared it to if you had a coworker that was working for your company and they get an offer to go work for a company that pays them exponentially more money rather than them just doing it for basically volunteering to do the job. Why would you not take it? And that's just a great way to put it. But the problem is fans get so attached to the players, and rightfully so, because they're, big fans of the team. And Noah is a huge staple and one of the faces of Iowa football. So, like, I can understand from a fan's perspective that they hate to see the kid go, and they want him to play the game. And, they try and stab him, like, they try and take shots at his character like he's not a team player and he's only thinking about himself. And in this situation, he should only be thinking about himself, because if he were to get hurt, his teammates from Iowa aren't going to be the one paying his bills or anything like that. He's got to make the best decision for him, because his finances are his finances and nobody else's.
Yeah. And to speak on that, before Kevin, you give your take on it real quick. Us three, we can speak to his actual character. We played with him. Noah's a good kid. Noah does care about his teammates. He cares about the program. Like, this isn't a thing where I saw one tweet that said, like, oh, well, he is from Nebraska, only played 3 years for Iowa, probably doesn't have a great connection to the program. Like, I can promise you he cares about his teammates. He cares about his coaches. This is just a very rare situation where making the decision, a selfish decision for you just happens to be the better choice, even though it looks maybe bad. It's just the better choice financially, and it just is. And it's hard to deal with that as a fan who is attached to the program, like Drake said. Kevin?
Yeah. So, like you said earlier, I kind of went off on Nick Bosa for his decision to abandon his teammates in the middle of the season, like literally 4 games or 5 games into the season, which I thought was complete bullshit. And then, but like you said, completely different situations. This is at the end of the year. We're not in the hunt for a national championship. Who knows if Nick Bosa plays? Maybe they beat Purdue and maybe they're in the college football playoff right now. Who knows? God knows. I don't know. I don't like the idea of guys skipping out on the bowl game. I just don't. I feel like
I don't think any of us do.
I understand it. No, yeah, I completely understand it. Like exactly what Drake said. This is a financial decision, risk reward. You're risking a lot and you're really not going to get a whole lot out of it reward wise. Like Noah's not going to make any huge plays in this bowl game that's going to increase his draft stock.
Right. Yeah.
Noah could run a route and just tweak and just, one misstep, there goes his ACL. And you know what? He's not getting drafted this year. Who knows? So I understand the decision. Guys in general leaving early, I don't like it. I feel like if you commit to your team for a season, you commit for the whole season. I have no problem with guys leaving after their junior year. Like everyone knew Josh was leaving last year, but he decided to play in the bowl game. Everyone knew. I mean, yeah, I completely understand it. Noah's got to do what's right for him, and I know all the guys on the team know that. All the guys on the team are going to be very happy for him next spring when he makes a hell of a lot of money. But just in general, I just don't like guys leaving early. Like I said, I understand it. I have no hard feelings towards Noah. It's just,
But yeah, the other thing is that then people bring up the question, then do bowl games even mean anything? Do players even care about bowl games? Like, did you guys even want to go or all this stuff? Like, yes, of course, bowl games still are like, I guess it's just a situation where if you aren't a part of it, you just don't understand it. Yes, it's important, but in this singular situation, it's not important enough to make you play in it over choosing millions of dollars. There's a lot of variables to this, and unless you're in that specific situation as a person, you can't really speak on it with full validity and truth to any kind of opinion or decision. We're going to take a break because we have a sponsor now. I actually don't know if this is going to work. This is how they told me to do it. Anchor is provided a sponsorship feature to where we now have a sponsor, and our sponsor is SeatGeek. So right now you should be hearing a SeatGeek sponsorship come up in between this. I don't know if that's actually going to happen or not, but we're going to take a quick break. We will be back in just a few moments. All right, so you may or may not have just heard an ad there. We're super thankful that Anchor is now has introduced this feature. Pretty cool for us. It allows us to make a little bit more pocket change on it. It's really not a whole lot, but it's something, and it's cool to say that we have a sponsor. So again, super, super cool. If not, you rolled right into this, and now we're back. We're going to finish this with a few more topics. Again, this is a kind of a jam-packed episode because a lot happened. A few more things that happened in the past week. There's a whole Gary Dolphin situation out there that we're going to talk about. KF went on Pardon My Take, which is a Barstool podcast, which is honestly like a miracle that it happened. And also, along with today, the Hawks being announced that, they're going to the Outback Bowl. All the other bowl games were announced, as well as the college football playoff. And we're going to start with that. Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, and Oklahoma are going to be playing for the national championship. And I guess really the big point for me right now is all 4 of those teams, in my eyes, clearly deserve to have a chance to play for that final national champion. The problem I have with it, and I don't honestly know, we didn't talk about it. I don't remember talking about it with you guys. maybe Kevin and I have spoke about it when we used to live together, but it's just the fact that in my eyes, there's a couple more teams that also deserve that shot. And I just don't understand why it's not an 8-team playoff. And that's my whole feud with it. I think the college football playoff should be an 8-team playoff. I think it's very clear almost every year how well an 8-team playoff would have worked. I think people that have an argument about it, it's usually the argument of, well, then they're going to want to move it to 16 and then 32. I don't think that's true, because in the college football playoff, it used to be that 2 teams got a shot to play for the national championship. At 4 teams, we finally gave more teams a chance. And the problem is we're right there in between levels of enough teams getting a chance and too many, or not enough and too many. So I think, in my opinion, 5, 6, 7 teams a year generally, and it holds pretty true, especially this year, have a legitimate shot at winning a national championship. When you hit that 8, 9, 10, you can no longer really argue that they should be in the conversation. So really what we're doing is if we move it to 8, and you guys are going to have your thoughts on this too, if you move it to 8, that 8th team, maybe even sometimes that 7th and 6th team, don't have legitimate claims to the national championship, but at least they're given a shot. Whereas right now where we stand, there's more than 4 Power 5. It's called the Power 5. So you're already leaving out a conference champion, which is it's extremely hard to win a conference championship, even if you have a few losses on your schedule. And then you're also leaving out some random, kind of outlier teams like UCF the past few years, where they're not a Power 5 team, but they've gone undefeated and they've beat some quality opponents who they have a legitimate claim to at least try for a national championship as well. It just makes sense to move it to 8 for me, and not to 16 after that. Just 8 seems like a perfect number, and that's my take on it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Kluve. I think 8 teams is the perfect number. I feel like the most logical way to set up a playoff is the 5 Power 5 conferences get an automatic bid for their champion. And then the group of 5 champions, which this year would have been Central Florida again, gets a bid. And then 2 at-large bids. I feel like that's the most logical way to get enough teams, but not too many teams, like you said. Because once you start getting too many teams in, you start to devalue the importance of the regular season. I think everyone loves NCAA March Madness, but to allow 64 teams to play for the title kind of, I don't know, it devalues the regular season. You can't say that you can, if you were to allow like 64 football teams in, then you have like 7 and 5 teams making the playoff, which I just don't think is right. And no one's calling for a 64 team playoff, but I feel like if you weren't good enough to get into the top 8 by the end of the regular season, then you're not good enough to play for a national title. And I think a lot of people feel the same way. Some people want 16, but I feel like 8 is just the right number. And I really hope we get to that at some point in the future.
I guess I'm pretty much on the same page with you guys. I think that 8 teams is great. Talking about the teams that are in this year, I would say that there's 2 that are kind of outliers, and it's 1 and 2, Alabama and Clemson. I think that they've proven that they are both pretty dominant forces to be reckoned with. As far as Notre Dame and Oklahoma, this has to be one of the most cloudy years for the playoff yet, because obviously Notre Dame, you can make an argument for them because they're undefeated, but they don't play a conference championship, so they didn't have to go through the same struggles that like Georgia did and Alabama. Putting in Oklahoma over Ohio State, I don't necessarily know exactly how, because they both have 1 loss on their resume. Of course, Oklahoma's was not as bad of a loss, but I think Ohio State has the more impressive wins and have shown to be maybe a more complete team. And then you take Georgia, who ended up ranked 5th today. They just played Alabama down to basically a game-winning touchdown on the last drive. So I don't know how you can say that Georgia doesn't look like one of the best 5 or best 4 teams in the country. So I think this whole cloudiness just kind of lends to it needing to be an 8-team playoff, because I truly believe that Ohio State has a really good argument for being able to get in. And clearly Georgia does, because it's hard to beat a team twice, and Alabama was barely able to beat them once. So I would love to be able to see them potentially get revenge on that loss, like Oklahoma did with Texas this year in the Big 12 championship. So I don't know. It just sucks that, some amazing matchups and great football games to watch aren't going to be able to be seen because we aren't able to get it to 8 teams. But hopefully that's coming in the future.
I'm kind of with you, Drake. I do believe that Georgia is without a doubt a top 4 team. And that's kind of the problem.
I'm 100% with you guys there too.
What's that?
I'm with you guys there too. Georgia took Alabama to the wire. I think 100% they should be in the top 4, but just because of the way it is right now, they're not in the top 4 because they're not a conference champion and because they have 2 losses, and that's it just sucks.
It comes down to like the resume versus the eye test. The eye test will tell you that Georgia is better than Notre Dame, Oklahoma, and Ohio State without a doubt. But
shit, they might be the second best team in the country.
They very well might be. Who knows? But
yeah,
resume wise, I feel like both Ohio State and Oklahoma and Notre Dame all have a better resume than them.
Yeah,
but sure. Like we said, I think 8-team playoff, solves all of this. We get all those teams in there.
Yeah,
and there'd be some incredible games. Fans would go absolutely wild.
Yeah, this year, the Oklahoma gets in, Georgia, Ohio State don't get in, and then you have UCF. So you have 3 teams who have legitimate claims where you can't really deny them the fact that they should be a part of it. And I think most years you're going to end up with that at least one, but 2 or 3 other teams that should be in that top 4. And I think it's not a matter of if, but when. I really think that's how it is. We're going to move on. Those are our thoughts on the college football playoff. I know a lot of you out there have said to talk about it, and there's our thoughts. We all kind of share the same thing. It should move to 8, and I think it will. It's just a matter of when. We're going to move on and talk about something that happened in the Hawkeye world the past week.
Free Dolph.
Gary
man.
Dolphin.
Free Dolph.
Free Dolph. Free Dolph for real. Looks like we just lost Kevin, but I don't know if he's here or not. Gary Dolphin had a hot mic, said some shit about one of our guys dribbling into a
he had some critical comments.
Says something about right. He said why don't we recruit players like this? And he was referencing a guy or two that Pitt had. He said something about Daly dribbling with his head down into a double team. In my opinion, and we're not going to super debate this, but in my opinion, this was blown way out of proportion. Okay, one, is it okay that he said the things he did on air? No. Obviously, he didn't mean to. Is it okay that he said them at all? I think so. It wasn't meant for anybody but him and his broadcasting partner. And he, more than most people, is around the program. That gives him a little bit of legitimacy. He knows more than most people. It gives, we know him personally. I used to talk with Dolph all the time during football practice. Somebody came out on Twitter and said, oh, so just because it's basketball, it's okay. If this was football, you guys would be ripping him apart. No, we wouldn't.
Yeah, that's
absolutely not.
Untrue.
At least, yeah, I wouldn't be ripping him apart because I know who he is and I've met him. And here's the thing. If he said that about, let's give an example. My example was going to be if he had a hot mic during a commercial during that Penn State game, right after Stanley missed that wide open throw to Hawkinson. And he said, gosh, what? We got freaking Stanley who can't even hit a Hawkinson. That takes the lead right there. We'd have total control of the game. I mean, what kind of player is he right now? That's just a genuine, real emotion kind of reaction to what happened. That's all I see it as. And if he makes a good point, I don't see that as a problem. I mean, yes, it's obviously a problem that we have a hot mic, but it's just not the kind of thing that should gain a reaction like this did. And I feel bad for him because it was an unfortunate situation, and I just think it got completely blown out of proportion. We're going to cut it for 1 second just to see if we can get Kevin's mic figured out, and then we'll be back. And we're back. We finally figured it out. It turns out 10 episodes in, we're still a low-budget podcast. All right. Awesome. The sponsors need to pick up. All right. We need more of them. If you want to donate. Anyway, Kevin and Drake, your take on the Dolph situation.
Yeah, I have a very short take. Dolph did not say anything that nobody or anybody was not thinking. If you would have recorded us when we didn't know we were recording, we would have said a whole lot of shit way worse than that. So, yeah, I have no problem with Dolph. Dolph's the GOAT. Free Dolph.
Like, if I got caught, if like some of our text message conversations got exposed, or like even some of the stuff that we've said to each other before this podcast starts recording, like I would 100% be in jail. So like,
there's a good chance.
The fact that Dolph got caught with a hot mic and people are spazzing over the fact that he basically had an informed criticism of some issues that are going on with the team, that he didn't even know that he was getting caught saying it. And all fans have said much worse about players and coaches to their friends when they didn't know when they thought they weren't being recorded, or when they knew they weren't being recorded. So the fact that Dolph gets in trouble for something that nobody should have even heard because it wasn't his fault that it didn't cut away, like that's just like a technical difficulty. He got caught with a hot mic saying, not even like berating players or belittling them or anything like that. You're just making an informed criticism on Coach McCaffrey and a player. And like, if Dolph would have said something about that to me, like, hey, it'd be really great, for the run game if Drake didn't run through the hole with his eyes closed, like I would probably laugh and I'd be like, yeah, that attempted block did really suck. Like, I do need to pick my shit up. So like, Dolph got absolutely screwed, and just free Dolph, because that's good people. Iowa needs Gary Dolphin much more than Gary Dolphin needs Iowa, man. And he's a great guy. So just let this shit slide. It happened. It was an accident. He is genuinely apologetic for it. And let's get this man back in the broadcasting booth, because he's a really fun guy to listen to, and he has some really interesting takes. Free Dolph.
Drake,
I love listening.
I'm always tempted to leak some of your text messages that you sent me just to see what would happen.
Like, don't do it, because I will literally go to jail. And like, I will beat the shit out of you before I go to jail. Just like,
not only
on principle that you're a snitch.
All right. So not only that, but it's it would be not only the us three. Kevin, there's a lot of levels to it if text messages got leaked, and I know all of you listening have conversations with your friends that should never be heard, or you joke way past the line on some subject or whatever. And obviously you got a bunch of 24-year-old dudes, us three included in our group text. We call it the Benton Savages. That group text message, if it was leaked, we would all be, the podcast would not be allowed to happen.
People would really think poorly on all of us.
Our families would disown us. Our things, it just wouldn't be good. And I know all of you have text messages out there just like that. Yeah, so it's just stuff you say in private where you can get away with funny jokes or stuff that you wouldn't be able to tell other people. Dolph got a hot mic. Shit happens.
He took a bad beat. Like, it's just bullshit.
Yeah. I saw a bunch of people out there don't like Dolph as our announcer. I just don't have that same. I love listening to Dolph. Like, I just do. That's all I got to say about it. So here's the issue. We've got 4 separate recordings for this podcast right now. As all of you listen to us close it down here, we don't know how much actual audio we got right now. We're hoping we got close to an hour, but the connections were being a little wonky tonight. It's not something we can really improve on unless we get some serious internet upgrades, and we haven't really looked into that yet. But we hope that this episode, I'm going to have a hell of a time editing this a couple hours before I release it to all you guys. So I hope it turns out somewhat decent. There's a lot packed into a little bit of time. So not a lot of this is going to be, we didn't talk about our lives at all tonight because there's a lot that went on just in general. We'll be back. For all those wondering about merchandise, I know it's been like 2-3 weeks now since all of you have ordered. If you read the disclaimer on the website before you ordered, most of you probably just clicked the X and didn't read it. None of those orders were processed until like days after the store was closed, because what had to happen was it was a timed deadline store. So all the orders came in. Once all the orders came in, then the company that we're using had to place an order for all the material to print on. So that takes a little bit. Now I would assume, I haven't been in contact most recently, but I would assume they're just now getting that shipment of all the pieces in, and now they can start printing, processing, and shipping them. And so it's going to be a 5, maybe more week process. Yes, you will have it before Christmas. That's why we did it for only so long. You will have it before Christmas, but understand that there was a disclaimer at the beginning that this was going to be a 5-6 week process. A couple of you have complained on Twitter. If you just would have read the disclaimer, then we wouldn't be having this issue. Really want to thank everyone who still continues to support us. All of our subscribers on Anchor, you're killing it. So thankful that we have you guys. Just thankful for everybody that listens to this. We're at about 5,000 listeners per week. We haven't really grown since we hit like episode 6, but you can't grow forever. We didn't think that we'd be past 2,000 viewers, and we have 5,000 of you. And as they go on, our episodes get upwards of 6. We have a couple that are going upwards of 7,000 listens, which is incredible. We're having a blast doing this. We haven't made a deadline or a dead decision on what we're going to stop, if we're going to go through the bowl game or if we're going to use that bowl game as our first episode for the next season. We'll figure out that more in the future here. We're glad you joined us and worked through these dumbass technical issues, and we're going to try and produce the best piece of content we can for this week. Kevin and Drake, you got anything to leave the people with?
I don't think so. I guess we're really looking forward to continuing and creating content for you guys and trying to have good conversations that you guys can enjoy. At the end of the day, we're just 3 former Hawks that still really love our team, and we're always going to advocate for them. So if we sound like a little bit of homers sometimes, we are. And we're just glad that you guys are here to tune in with us. As always, we pretty much expect Hawks to win by 1 million, no matter what the sporting event, no matter who they're playing. Because that's just what we do. We're Hawks and we win by fucking millions.
Kevin? Yeah, I can't believe it. We're still doing this fucking thing. I thought we'd be like kicked off after like 3 episodes. So you know what? We're just free rolling right now. We're having a ton of fun. We appreciate all our listeners. Find your local bookie, put $1 million on the Hawks, whatever sport, don't care. We got a good field hockey team. Don't know if it's field hockey season, but go bet on them. I don't know. Hawks by 1 million.
Seeing that there's snow on the ground, I don't think that it's field hockey season, you dumbass.
Yeah, it's just Kevin was smart in school, but other ways.
Yeah, typically you're smarter than that.
That's all we got. Thanks for listening to us for week 10. We're signing off. I'm losing connection. Hopefully we didn't lose you before now. If we got you all the way through this podcast, thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Go Hawks.